This is Revolutionizing Recruitment with Kathleen Duffy, the art of attracting, acquiring, and retaining talent. Here's Kathleen.
Thanks for joining me again as I continue my conversation with Hung Lee, the editor of the leading industry newsletter, Recruiting Brainfood. And Hung, you don't have to be a recruitment or HR expert like yourself to know that candidates are now in the driver's seat. What are you hearing from the international community about new strategies for winning this battle for talent?
Yeah, absolutely. I think right now is such an innovative moment, Kathleen, because for companies that are trying to compete, they know that they can just keep going to the same old, but that's just going to end up increasing cost. It's going to be trying to compete by paying higher salaries or paying higher agency fees or doing all those types of things. In the end, that's not a sustainable way to go. So absolutely, they're trying new things. We're seeing a lot more in trying to fill jobs through internal mobility, for instance. That's a huge thing happening within certainly larger companies where they recognize that, hey, we have 10% attrition every year, and guess what? 100% of those people that leave their jobs actually leave the entire company. But is there a reason why they do that? Can we not find other opportunities within the company that these folks can get to? So internal mobility has been like a priority concern. We've seen a lot more interest in things like long-term talent pipelining. This is the old, if you like, talent communities model where these hard-to-hire people, in particular, folks with highly skilled, in-demand type skills, you may not be able to start a conversation with that person when you need to hire them. And in fact, what you want to be doing is having a conversation with this person way in advance of your need, because you need to build, if you like, the relationship equity with that person in order for them to even think about joining you as a business. So we're seeing a lot more companies thinking along those lines where, how do we invest more in long-term, non-recruitment related interactions with the communities that we, are strategically important for us to hire. Obviously, we're seeing diversity as being a key component to try and fulfill some of the candidate shortfall. A great deal of the shortfall is often based on us failing to tap into different demographics that for one reason or another we have sidelined or ignored in our recruiting process. A good example for this, by the way, Kathleen, you could pick any example, but one of the good examples may be the older worker, the veteran worker. I did a show on this actually last week where we talked about people who would leave the employment market, maybe struggle to get back in the same way. But there's a lot of skilled, experienced labor out there that is there to be tapped. Is there a way in which we could change our thinking in terms of, what the requirement is so that we can make it more suitable for these folks to participate in the opportunities we have? Same thing goes typically with trying to get parents who've got young children, for instance, who may not be full-time parents per se, full-time sort of looking after kids, but they may not be able to do a full-time job either, but they have hours in the week where they could contribute something, whether it's 20 hours, 30 hours or whatnot. Have we designed jobs that enable those people to fully participate in the company? So I think right now it seems to be sometimes change doesn't happen unless there's a crisis. This candidate short crisis, I think, is certainly nudging a lot of these initiatives that were probably always been in the pipeline, but they're starting to elevate these into things that actually need to happen. And it's an exciting time for a recruiter. You can see there's a lot of opportunity there for companies who can help those end employers get to where they want to go.
Yeah, and I think you really nailed it with that we need to tap into different demographic groups. And I think the older population we've got veterans, we've got our disabled population, but we've also got the formerly incarcerated.
100%.
And
so right.
I think that is a really interesting pool to tap into, and we consistently remind people about that. I wanted to circle back with you about how companies are winning the battle for talent. One of the things that the topics of conversation that we're having with hiring leaders is around benefits and helping them to understand what candidates are looking for. Obviously, compensation is a piece of it, but now that everybody has had a taste of this remote workforce, of working from home and being able to have a bit of a more work-life harmony, the benefits are much more critical for them. And we've had candidates turn positions down or clients changing their benefits up. Either, can go both ways, where they wanted somebody to work full-time in the office and now they're offering the hybrid opportunity. Or for some who have the hybrid and the candidate only wants 100% remote, they're making those differences. They're also changing up paid time off. And I think your benefits in the UK are different from ours here in the States. But I think the concept is still the same, that companies are needing to kind of step it up and listen to what the candidate is looking for and kind of get into the new groove of things to make sure that they can get them across the finish line.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. And even so that I believe that things such as location agnosticism or location flexibility may soon become like a mandatory option rather than even a benefit, simply because employers are going to have a heck of a time recruiting if they want to lock people into a certain location. There's no question. You can even test it yourself. If you posted an advert and you said, hey, it's got to be based in this city, in this location, you're doing a 40-hour week or whatever, boom, you stick that job in there and you compare the response rate you would get if you simply said, you know what, this is going to be remote within this time zone. We just need you working these types of hours, but you can work where you need in terms of your location. You would get a times 10 type increase in terms of the applicant flow to the more flexible option. So I think you're absolutely correct, Kathleen. The world has changed. Everybody has had a taste. And once you have had that, then it becomes kind of really strange for you to even think about going back to the way it was. We'll look back on the daily commute, getting crushed in, for an hour there, an hour back, spending 10 hours a week. Literally getting to work uncompensated, by the way. You're not on the clock when you're sitting in the car or you're on the transport system. You're paying to get to the job, and you have to maintain a car, right? You have to maintain all of those expenses to do this stuff, and have a miserable time. So you're doing all of this, and then you're wondering, we'll look back on that and think that was just a crazy waste of human energy, a crazy waste of resources. Really damaging to people's physical and mental health also. And it kind of made it very difficult for you to do other things. Like one of the things I think I've noticed in the last 18 months, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners might agree with this, is that, those like small errands that you used to not be able to do because everyone was locked in a 9 to 5, but now you can go do them because maybe you're working from home. This could be stuff like going to the post office for 20 minutes, or, picking up your dry cleaning or doing something that is an errand you couldn't do previously. You'd have to just shove it into the weekend. And suddenly that means your weekend is completely absorbed by this accumulation of errands. So there's another day uncompensated that you've got that's gone. But now with, more flexi work, you can still be fully effective, do the full day of work, but do 2 or 3 things during the course of the day throughout that actually might be a welcome break from the work. But it doesn't cost you or your employer. It doesn't degrade your performance as an employee. So I think all of these things are going to be very difficult to let go. And the challenge is on now, I think, for employers to really think how they want to organize their working modes to compete for the talent of this type, because I think those demands are gonna be high, and they're gonna be, I think basically workers are gonna resist any attempt to send them back to the office.
True. I have managed a remote workforce since the beginning of the company. So for 30 years, Duffy Group has always been a remote workforce. So that was our competitive advantage in the past.
Right.
Now other people are following our lead here. I usually have share with my team that I'm having a conversation with somebody, and one of my recruiters had a question for you, and it was about the candidate scorecard. And she says, you refer to a Google scorecard, and the scorecard could be considered amusing. But what else can you tell us about the scorecards? And I actually printed it out, and it was quite funny, where you have, from 4.0 to 3.5 at the top of the range, strong hire them because of this feedback, down to 1.9 to 1.0, strong no hire, don't hire no matter what. Tell us about the scorecard and where are some of these situations that you have found it to be most successful and helpful to companies?
Yeah, so that scorecard is actually one of those like industry secrets that no one's ever going to Google never confirm it. It's the official thing or whatever. And, some ex-Google person sent it to me and said, "Hung, don't ever tell me where you got it from." And it was like, okay, fine. But I have worked with ex-Googlers, and they do tend to use this. So I think it is or was at least. One of the ways in which they score it. And I like it because it actually doesn't use scientific language. It uses a language that is human language, right? We understand what it means. And it isn't trying to pretend to be overly scientific. What it's trying to do is basically separate a subjective kind of way of talking about things in a quantifiable way. If you're going to hire somebody into a team and there's at least 2 team members that are literally saying, "Don't hire this person, I will resign if you do," then okay, then that's something I need to know. These people have marked this person as a number 1, meaning really bad. There needs to be a super compelling reason for me to veto that and to overturn it. And generally speaking, that kind of formula I think is useful. Basically, I think scorecards are a flawed way to work, but they are a definite improvement on not having a quantified way of doing it. What you don't want is basically having a situation, which is still probably the most common, where you have people are saying yes or no, but they can't really articulate the reasons why they're saying yes or no. And they can't, if you like, tell you how strongly they feel about it. So one of the values of having a scorecard is that you can kind of tell a little bit about how strongly people feel. It's not just a binary, hire, no hire scenario. These people give you scores. So there may be situations, for instance, when you're brought in to interview somebody and you may actually be ambivalent. Like you may say, "You know what, I don't strongly object to this person, but I haven't been so impressed that I'm going to bang the table for this person either. I think it's worth a shot." That I think is a legit bit of feedback, but it's difficult to capture, or at least more difficult to capture if you don't put a number against it. So I think scorecards generally are useful for that reason. They quantify what is a subjective thing, but it makes it kind of a way to enable strength of opinion to be recorded.
Well, I also can see that it can maybe move the process along a little bit faster, because that's another thing that we are encouraging our clients to do is if they see the candidate that they want to bring on board, they need to extend that offer fast, and they can't be drawing out these, interview process for weeks on end or multiple interviews. They've got to figure out how to streamline that, and I can see even a tool like the scorecard being able to support that.
That is actually a scorecard. If you produce it for a client, I think can be something very value added, because it's one of those things that you don't make as a tool unless you're recruiting all the time. So if recruiters often forget this because we recruit all the time, right? This is something that we do 100% of the time. But a hiring manager is not a hiring manager all of the time. They are a engineering manager, or they are a chief of finance or something. They've got another job to do that is much more consumptive of their time. So they episodically have to switch into hiring mode. It makes no sense for them to have created a tool that helps them do that. So I think definitely one thing agents can do is to come up with a kind of a scorecard and say, look, this is how we score candidates. If you want to use this, that would be a great. You can roll it out for the rest of the team, and that way you can have some sort of numbering system that really expedites the process. And as you say, once people are able to convert feelings into numbers, then things move faster.
I agree. Before I let you go, in addition to your passion around social anthropology, I also read that you like moral philosophy, medieval history, and classical studies.
Goodness me, you've read my LinkedIn profile, haven't you?
I did.
Good
So
Lord.
here's my $10,000 question for you, Hung. So who from history would you like to have on your Crowdcast show?
On my Crowdcast, wow, what an interesting question. You know what? I'd probably have a number of people. I think I'd take someone like Leonardo da Vinci, simply because that dude was so talented at so many different things. There was almost like, I'm sure he'd have like zillions of things to say. Like there's literally no chance that he would be a dead air type of panelist on the show, right? So yeah, I think Leonardo da Vinci would definitely be up there. Maybe you'd also want someone who's like an amazing orator, someone who's able to, be able to command the stage in some way. Name kind of maybe something like somebody from the US, like Martin Luther King or somebody like that, who would be a great presence. Almost to see how the communication angle would be very interesting to look at. And yeah, I think there's going to be loads of different people who, you've got me down a track here. I wonder whether there's a TV show that does something like this where, you could get some sort of AI kind of figure to represent some of these historical figures and get them involved in a recruiting show. That would be quite interesting, I think, to do.
There you go. All right. Well, I can see that as a future show for you.
I would love to do it. I mean, imagine. We have enough words from what these people have said, right? Either written or spoken or whatnot. We could probably create a kind of a facsimile of this person and get them on the show. I look forward to it.
All right. There you go. Well, I'll be there promoting it for you.
Yeah, you come on and help me interview those people, Kathleen. How's that as a deal?
That'll be great. We'll be the the Regis and Kathy Lee. That just dates me of the recruiting conversation.
That's exactly right. We'll have to do it. We'll have to hang around long enough for and be in business for this tech to get there, and then we'll get it done.
Okay, sounds like a plan. That sounds like a plan. Listen, Hung, it's been great conversing with you and getting to know you better. I really appreciate. And most importantly, for all that you do for all of us in the community, you are a great community steward. And so for those people who are not part of the Recruiting Brainfood community, what's the best way for them to join and also to get in touch with you? Yeah,
I mean, it's quite straightforward. The best way to do it is to sign up to Recruiting Brainfood. It's a once a week newsletter, so go to recruitingbrainfood.com. You simply sign into it. Double opt-in, by the way, so obviously massively GDPR compliant, so just confirm that you want to do it. Then you get an email once a week, and once that happens, then happy to communicate on email or anywhere else.
Well, great. Well, I know I really enjoy receiving the weekly newsletter, as do my team. So thank you for all of that, and I appreciate your time today, and look forward to continuing the conversation with some of our medieval ancestors.
We will certainly do that. Thanks a lot for having me, Kathleen.
You're very welcome, Hung. His name is Hung Lee, the editor of Recruiting Brainfood. And that's it for this episode of Revolutionizing Recruitment. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, make sure you take a second to subscribe so you automatically get my new shows when they drop. Also, if you have a minute, I'd love if you left me a review so more folks like yourself can discover the show. Until next time, take care.
This has been Revolutionizing Recruitment with Kathleen Duffy. To connect with Kathleen or to learn more about recruitment research, go to duffygroup.com.